was actually put out by the White Hats, the good guys at the State Department, trying to get us ready, to get the public thinking about how they would react and modeling the correct way to react. And then there were the cabal that didn't want that knowledge out because they can control us more easily. And so they put out movies like War of the Worlds and Independence Day and, you know, the scary movies.
To put fear into people.
Fear shuts down contact.
Yeah.
You cannot be fifth dimensional thinking and be in fear at the same time. Fear just lowers your vibrations. And that's what they're trying to do, is keep us down. Don't let them
So
do
you
it.
have any idea when?
When? It's already happening.
Yeah.
But en masse, like
En
take over
masse.
the news,
Yes.
guys, this is it. Obama steps in front of the, or whoever, Putin, and says, this is the deal.
I don't know when it's gonna happen from that side, but it's happening from the grassroots up, and I'm part of that process.
Yeah,
And how much will they help us? Do you think they're going to give us everything so that we can, you know, instantly have the non-polluting vehicles and everything else?
No,
Why not?
They said that.
because that's part of why we're here. Is
Part of why we're here is to learn.
We're evolution, it's
Yeah.
a spiritual evolution. We're learning, we're growing.
Solve our own
Besides-
problems. If they did everything for us, we'd become codependent,
Yeah.
cosmic codependency.
Besides, they have the political of not interfering unless
Yeah,
we ask for some help, but in a specific
Yeah.
program or
It's not
something.
quite as strict as the Star Trek Prime Directive, but they, you know, they're here, they're watching, they're giving us a little nudge here and there, but they don't want to do everything for us.
Uh-huh.
You know what happens if a baby chick is trying to break out of the egg and you help it? The chick will die
Yeah.
because they don't develop the strength they need to survive. They need to solve that problem themselves. We need to solve our problems. They have actually given us a level playing field. They have cleaned out the grays and they're working on containing or removing the last of the reptilians. They're giving us a level playing field. All that's left now are the human, quote, human minions that we're working with them, but they've lost their support base. It's now up to us to finish the job and move this planet upward.
have they destroyed the underground bases?
You remember the earthquake in Washington,
Yeah.
D.C.?
Yeah,
That was one of them.
that's what I heard.
Yep, they've done a lot to get rid of this interference that we've been having that's been trying to hold us down. So now we're a lot safer for the light workers to step out and move this
Is
planet
the
up.
military getting involved at all, or?
Yeah, there's white hats and black hats in the military, but the good guys at the Pentagon are getting quite involved in helping clean house. So it's happening. It's not being reported in the mainstream news because the mainstream news is controlled by the cabal,
Right.
but it's happening. Okay. So how does your understanding of your place in the universe affect your spiritual growth? How does it affect you to know that we're part of a much larger family? Does that change your perspective a little bit?
I just understand.
Change mine a lot.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay, CSETI is the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence. That's Dr. Greer's group, and that's where I started with the serious formal studies. Protocols there, we would transmit specific tones, and these tones were based on ones that were, it was actually a BBC camera crew filming in a crop circle, and their great big expensive camera just melted down. The energy just, but in the last second or so of recording, they got a very interesting tone. And we don't know for sure whether that was extraterrestrial or the crop circle makers or who, but we figured if we transmit that tone that did not match anything that any of the acoustics experts on the planet could identify, if we transmit that tone out to them, then they would recognize that we are trying to get their attention, that we recognize that there's something different and we're trying to get their attention.
In YouTube, we see a lot of videos that say that they can open your pineal gland and it sound. Do you think they work? Are they good at that?
Consciousness is one of the major factors for contact, and yes, clearing the pineal gland, decalcifying the pineal gland is
Uh-huh.
very much a part of that process if you can do that.
Yeah, but so they work. This music that they played and tones, as
Yep.
you say,
Yeah,
they actually affect.
the solfeggio tones. Look up solfeggio.
Yes.
How do you spell that?
S-U-L-F-A-G-I-O.
Solfege, S-O-L, I think.
S-O-L-F-A-G-I-O, I think it is.
Might be two Gs.
Yeah, I think it is 2 Gs. Those are very good at helping cleanse, decalcify the pineal and opening up your abilities. The pineal gland is very much a part of your psychic abilities and your ability. It's actually your spaceship. It's your ability to travel out of body or in consciousness. Let me play this real quick. Okay, what happened to the projector? Maybe
Too
I can't
hot?
play it. Okay. Did the projector overheat,
Yeah.
or did it just time out? Anyway, we'll get that back. I've got the sound files on my computer, maybe I can pull that up later if people are interested. It's
Yeah.
not working from the thumb drive for some reason.
I have a question in the meantime.
Okay,
Have you ever heard of anyone called Andrew Bashiago?
yes.
And his, we attended a conference and he talked about training in a facility near Mount Shasta
Mhm.
for a certain amount of time. In his class was Obama,
I've heard that.
yeah, but anyway, he trained as a courier to go to Mars, and he
Mhm.
went back and forth several times, I don't remember how many,
Yep,
and it was through a facility called a jump room.
jump rooms, yes.
Okay,
Yep, it's like an elevator. You step in, push the button, the door opens, and you're somewhere else. Now, my contact, I asked her, my understanding is that your location and time, where you are right now, is a function of your personal vibratory signature. So I said, if you're able to change that portion of the signature that relates to your time and place, are you able to be somewhere else? And she says, absolutely. So basically, that's what the jump room does, is electronically, it changes that vibratory signature to a different time and place. So they were using it, they were experimenting from Montauk, they were sending people out to Santa Fe, New Mexico, because if they missed a little bit, there was a civilization, a long time city or town there. So they would have support they needed to survive if they wound up too far back in time or whatever. There was always somebody there for quite a ways back. So that was one of the places where they would jump to and from while they were practicing, and then they use it to go to Mars and other places, the moon. Yeah. So we don't even need the UFO craft. They're only where they need specific physical presence rather than being just able to move your body from here to there.
I was gonna plug Andrew Bashavu because I've been in contact with him, and I do weird things with the pen. I did one where I analyzed the political candidates, and one's 2016 Democrats and others 2016 Republicans, but I include him in there, and his level of conscience and IQ and everything are super high, and he's a candidate for president this year.
Really?
I wrote to him that he's gonna win in 2020 and 2024, and he wrote me back, I'm the fourth psychic that has told you that.
I'll be darned.
But he's a real nice guy, and he would make all this public. And
Oh,
they've actually
absolutely.
brought information back from the future where it is public. In other words, he has a very high likelihood, not 100%, of being president of the US in 2020. And there's also something supposed to happen, a big revelation about Congress and stuff of their hidden Swiss bank accounts and stuff. that they brought back from the future.
And they do insider trading.
That is probably
It's
gonna affect
they
the
made it legal
elections.
for themselves to do insider trading, but not for anybody else. Yeah, so a lot of the congressional offices, a lot of the aides are sitting there doing insider trading on information they've got about deals with contractors or whatever, where they know they're gonna pass the law to buy this aircraft from this manufacturer, and they'll do the insider trading before the law passes and anybody else. Yeah, it's really corrupt. But,
What about the current world economic situation? I mean, do you have any clue about when we're gonna collapse? Or?
it's changing, and I think I've probably come, you know, in a past life from a world where there is no money. The Star Trek economy, you do what fulfills you, and your needs are taken care of, and you help other people with what they need, and everything just works. I think it may take a little while to move totally away from money, but I think we're actually gonna move in that direction. I think the Federal Reserve and the fractional banking system and stuff are collapsing under their own weight.
Yeah.
I get
that and derivatives.
a lot of information on the, what's the name of this, the law? Sorry. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, it's a law, a supposed law, which I assume is true, is gonna totally change.
Nasara.
Nasara.
And I think there's a lot of disinformation around that too, but I think there's some truth that they're trying to obscure with the disinformation.
One time I just asked the pendulum, right, that I would do everything, and it said this is gonna be a redistribution of $54 trillion per year for 5 years.
Wow.
Worldwide. So we have a 5-year program with $54
All the money
trillion.
they've stolen is gonna go back
Yeah.
to the people, yeah.
It's interesting, this isn't guaranteed, but that's the information I was getting.
Yeah.
So
Sam
I look
has
for it to
something.
happen soon. I do.
Yeah, there's things like we're using a projector here, but in the Kona conference on teleportation, etc., Andrew Basiago was talking about holograms, where you can project something and it'll look real on the screen. So I asked him, is it possible that you could project a 737 or 757 going into the 7th tower? And he said, yes, you could project it at 100 tanks, 100 tanks, if you wanted to.
Yeah, we gotta get beyond this conflict mentality. But anyway, Native American, these are symbols from Chief Golden White Eagle that he has received from the Star Cousins. The Native Americans have been having contact for centuries. They've now been told it's time to share that information with the rest of us. They have the Kachinas. I was down in Mesa Verde, and they were talking about the kivas, and some of the kivas had entrances and some did not have a door. And they, you know, how did they get in? Well, some of the people didn't need a door to get in. They could just move through matter. They were in a higher frequency and they could just move right through. But the ranger wasn't getting into that too much, but I asked her, who were these Kachinas? And she said, oh, they were people that dressed up for these ceremonies and danced around and stuff. And I said, well, where'd they get that idea? And she, huh? I said, could it be the star visitors? And she's like, huh? Okay. Anyway, yeah, the Kachinas were based on the star visitors that would come in and share their wisdom with them. As a matter of fact, Mount Blanca in central Colorado, which is near where we do a lot of our outings, is known as the Sacred Mountain of the East, the Mountain of Knowledge. And right next to Mount Blanca, just to the north of it, there's big sand dunes, the Great Sand Dunes National Park. And the geologists have been trying to figure out where that sand came from. Did it come from the west and collect in that pocket in the mountains, or did it come over the top and collect in the back swirl? they're measuring the levels of magnetite in the sand compared to different areas, and they can't find anything that matches. They're totally perplexed. Well, the Native American legend is that the great sand dunes were formed when Mount Blanca was hollowed out by the ant people. Okay. Mountain of knowledge. The Native Americans from all over the Southwest would come to Mount Blanca. The San Luis Valley was known as the Bloodless Valley. There was no violence allowed in there. They had to check their weapons as they came into the valley. They'd go to the mountain. Who were the professors at this university?
Mhm.
The ant people that hollowed out Mount Blanca. Very interesting. Native Americans also used dances, drumming, ceremony to get themselves into that state. You can use dancing, rhythmic movements, etc., drumming to reach that level of consciousness also. I use kind of a combination of all that, mental and psychological preparation. You have to be at a point where you have no fear. And when you're in that silence between the breaths and that direct connection with the universe, you are beyond fear. You know that you're totally safe. And so being able to face the high strangeness, we'd have so many things happen, so many high strangeness events that pretty quick we just got to saying, well, there's another one. We'd look forward to them for what we could learn from them. So there has to be an invitation. Let's see, thought projection and telepathy. So we use the meditation, we reach out in consciousness, we project our invitation, our willingness to meet with them. Group meditation, you've heard the term whenever two or more are gathered, that it's much more powerful than just one person, and it's not just additive, it's like logarithmic. You get 20 or 30 people together, and the power of, if you're focused on one concept, like they've done experiments where transcendental meditation, people would focus on lowering the crime rate in Washington, D.C. for a week or for a day. And there was a significant, it was 40% drop. So the power of combined consciousness synchronized on one purpose is incredible. And also it helps to be willing to be of service. Offer yourself to be of service to the process of raising up humanity, and I think part of my mission or my purpose is to bring humanity up to the level where we can have that open, the big family reunion, where they can safely move among us openly and share our history with us, and it's like meeting the long lost cousins that have lived overseas all their life, and now you get to meet them and learn about totally different cultures. They're ready. They've got this huge family reunion party planned. All we got to do is bring ourselves up to the level we're ready. There's a guy down in South America, Ricardo Gonzalez, who's having a lot of success on contact and taking groups of people out and stuff. And he says the universal law of attraction applied to contact in terms of positive and negatively inclined humans and ETs. Ricardo said that there are three important considerations in determining the nature of the contact experience. Intention had to match. Positive intentions attract positively inclined ETs. Now, some people feel like they got to put up protection. Well, if you're thinking you got to put up protection, that means you're afraid of something. I like to move beyond that to where what I'm putting out is unconditional love and oneness, and if I'm vibrating at that high a level, nothing less can enter my space. Okay, so then I invite those who are here for the highest good of humanity and the planet to interact with us. That's the way I like to approach it. The vibration frequency has to match, so that involves raising our level of consciousness, and he says there has to be an invitation. And let's see. So one of the things you've got to work on in your meditations is, do you have any lingering fears? Culturally, they've infused fear in us with these scary movies,
Implanted.
Yeah, and they use the very scary images like the insectoid types, that look like the the 6 foot tall praying mantis and stuff, they try and make it, or the reptilians, they try and make it very scary to keep us so that if we have a contact event, we're gonna go immediately into fear. That's what they want. So you've gotta work on yourself and resolve those fears internally, where when you encounter someone who may or may not look like us, that you can approach it from a higher level. So let's try a little bit of a meditation here. I'm just going to lead you through a short oneness meditation. So I want everybody to preferably sit relatively upright. Don't cross your arms or legs because that kind of short circuits the energy. And you can put your hands in the palms in your on your legs like you use. That's just about perfect right there. It's best for the inner flow. So now, start focusing on your breathing. Excuse me. Start focusing on your breathing and take deep, slow breaths. So inhale slowly and deeply, and then pause. And then exhale slowly and deeply. Push it all out gently. And then pause. Inhale slowly and deeply, and pause. And notice during that pause between the breaths, there's a moment of deep, profound silence. With each breath, try and expand that silence a little longer and a little longer. And with practice, and it may take a while, you can start to expand that through the entire breath cycle. In that moment of silence, you are connected with the universal consciousness. You are at one with all. And I like to visualize the breath coming in through the top of my head like a dolphin and going down through my body like a wave, cool, cleansing wave of air down through your legs. And then as you exhale, exhale it out through your feet. Imagine roots from your feet deep down into the earth, and let that energy flow deep down into the earth. So with each breath, that breath comes in through the top of your head and cleanses you as it goes through of any impurities, physical or mental, emotional. Cleanse those impurities, breathe them down into the earth where they can be transmuted into something good. Each breath clearer and cleaner and more aware. And start to become conscious of consciousness itself. Not the sounds that you hear, but that by which you were able to hear the sounds. Contemplate how it is that you were able to be aware and awake and conscious. And if you hear a sound that's a distraction, just think of it as confirmation that you are awake and aware and conscious, and then move back into contemplating how it is that you were able to perceive. And now, imagine yourself a dolphin in the ocean, swimming in a vast sea of consciousness, pure consciousness, just jumping and spinning and looping and diving, just for the pure joy of it. Just experience that unfettered joy. Swim down, 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 deep, deep as you can go. Turn up, swim upwards as fast as you can, leap into the air, and just keep going right up through the atmosphere, out into space, past the moon, past the planets, out past the stars, out into deep interplanetary space, intergalactic space. So you see the Milky Way receding, and you're out in between the galaxies. And now coast to a stop. And just look around, just take a moment to just marvel in what a beautiful universe God's created. And just be at one in that silence with the consciousness of the universe itself, the collective consciousness of all that is. contemplate that anybody you might encounter out there, no matter where they're from, is awake and aware and conscious in the same way that you are, that we're holographically connected. They contain an aspect of us and we contain an aspect of them, and we are much more alike than we are different. And so now start to expand your consciousness like a bubble, larger and larger in all directions. And see if you encounter anybody else. They may be on a craft, they may be on a planet. But when you do, just mentally introduce yourself as a citizen ambassador from Earth, reaching out and trying to initiate some peaceful contact with our neighbors. And after you've introduced yourself, ask them to share a little bit about themselves and their culture. And I'll just give you a few minutes to absorb whatever impressions you might get. You may hear a voice, you may see an image, you may feel an emotion. It could come in a wide variety of ways. And then when you're ready, thank them for letting you be a friend. And allow your consciousness to come back into the Milky Way, into one of the spiral arms, into our solar system. Your consciousness knows the way. To our planet, to the Western Hemisphere, to Latin America, to Costa Rica, to this area, and gently back into your body. And gradually, when you're ready, open your eyes and start to come back to normal consciousness. And if anyone had some interesting experiences, please feel free to share. Taking their time coming back. It's so good out there, isn't it? Did anyone encounter anybody?
Well, I saw Ashtar.
Ah, okay.
You know,
I've heard that he wants to talk to me. I've got to break down some blocks to where I can communicate.
Yeah, I've channeled it in the past.
Uh-huh. You
So
get any,
maybe he's trying to get me to do it some more.
get any message or impressions of any kind?
No, just a pure image.
Okay, I've heard that this whole part of the universe is kind of his jurisdiction. They call this the Ashtar
Ashtar command.
command region, yeah. Anyone else? Did you have any? No? It may come in later. Now that hypnagogic state, just as you're falling asleep or just as you're waking up, where you're kind of borderline consciousness, is a good time for impressions to come in.
I just felt the head like on
Uh-huh.
the brain. Okay.
Consciousness expanding. Yep. In the higher dimensional, or in the between life realms, we are much larger. We're kind of crammed into this physical body, and to just be able to expand is quite liberating, I guess would be the term. Okay. Anyone else have anything to share? I've had people meet dragons out in space. I've had, they said it was a very nice dragon.
Dragons are the protectors of treasure. They're the good guys, really.
Yeah, in a lot of cases. I've had people tell me that the night after we did a big meditation with over 100 people out in the field down in Pagosa Springs with Mark Kimmel
Oh,
at the conference he did, 12-12-12. I was there. We did this out in the field with about 100 people. One of the people there was Ukwala, who's a Havasupai wisdom keeper. And he said he saw a whole group of Native American elders or spirit people, full dress regalia. They were there just enjoying the energy. There were extraterrestrials, there were higher dimensionals, angelic, etc. He said we probably had as many higher dimensional people in the meadow with us as we had physical people. And then that night, some of the people said they went to the ship overnight. As they were falling asleep, they went to the ship. And I said, oh, really? She said, yeah, there was a big meeting going on. I said, I wonder if I was there, because I didn't remember it consciously. She said, oh, yeah, you were leading it. I go, dang, I wish I could remember. So, anyway, it's a far, far stranger universe than you or I can imagine, Horatio, but it sure is fun trying to figure it out.
it sure is.
Okay, so, I've got a deal here, but it's not, well, may be able to hear it, but it didn't have much volume on this. Let's see.
If not, I'll sing it for you.
Maybe I can get it to work.
Remember?
I remember the music.
No, I don't think it's gonna work on here,
No.
but look up, oh, there it is. I wish I could get a little more volume on this. Anyway, you're not gonna be able to hear it, so I'm gonna skip that, but look up the Carpenters,
Sure.
calling occupants of interplanetary craft. I think this was back in like about 1971. I heard it back then, but it didn't connect with me. Since then, you know, since I've gone through this whole process of teaching myself to become a cosmic citizen, to have contact, and then I heard this calling occupants of interplanetary craft from the Carpenters. Bang, it just hit me like, duh, they had it figured out back then, and they give you the key. They teach you that consciousness and telepathy is the way to connect. So look that song up. You can probably get it on iTunes as a single, but, well, actually, for free, you can find it on the internet. And look for the one that starts out with that hokey DJ, but
Yes.
it's the original one that the Carpenters did, and then there's a lot of takeoffs. There's one where she appears on the screen of the Enterprise, and Kirk is going blah blah blah. But well, I had a serious crush on Karen Carpenter myself when I was back in high school, I gotta admit. But anyway, look that up on YouTube for Carpenters calling occupants of interplanetary craft. It's amazing. You can meditate on that and not only just listen to it, but use your brain as a translator, just like a radio translator station. The sound comes in, mentally project that out as an invitation to our visitors, to our neighbors. You'll find that song is just amazing.
We downloaded that song and Karen made one CD. And Karen made copies for all our friends, and Sam said it was a protocol. That song was a protocol to make a contact, actual contact.
It was actually, there was a World UFO group, I forget exactly the name of them, but it was back in the 40s, and they would send out mimeographed newsletters all over the world to their members. This was way before the internet. And so they sent out a letter saying on March 1st, we're going to have World Contact Day, and everybody at this time, corrected, you know, whatever Greenwich Mean Time, whatever it is in your time zone, everybody meditate on this particular message, which was basically the basis of the song that the Carpenters did. And so all around the world at the same time, all of these people were meditating simultaneously to connect with our neighbors.
Wow.
And ever since then, March 1st has been World Contact Day. to this day.
Hmm.
But the Carpenters did this song, and it became the official anthem of World Contact Day.
Wow.
Okay. So I've been doing a lot of this contact work, and a friend of mine was visiting from Salt Lake, and he was also going to visit another friend of his in the Denver area, Sierra Neblina. And I'd never met Sierra, but she called him up and says, "Joe, you got to go see this movie with me." Oh, thank you. And he says, "Well, I'm visiting with Don. Can he come along?" "Oh, sure, bring him along." So we went and saw this movie. It's called The Fourth Kind. Terrible movie. Don't pollute your brain with it. It's a hoaxed documentary. It's made to look like a documentary, but it's a pure fiction horror movie about abductions and stuff going on up in Alaska. And but it triggered memories for Sierra. 18 years earlier, after we got out of the movie, and I'm going, I didn't really like that movie at all. She says, "Well, here's what happened to her. She had been in the Army and was now out of the Army. She was on the inactive reserve list, but and actually in the Army, she was the first woman certified to drive Patriot missile trucks. And since that involved being near or even behind enemy lines, she also qualified as a sniper. And so she'd drive the truck to where they needed to set it up, and then she'd go back a couple hundred yards with the sniper rifle and keep an eye on everything with the scope while the guys were doing their thing. And then she also, just for recreation, she taught hand-to-hand combat to the men, knife fighting and stuff, and she'd whoop up on them. She was no wuss by any means. But she was down in Colorado Springs, and one night she heard a scream out in the courtyard of their apartment building, and a bright light was shining through her window. And she rolled over to check on her partner, and her partner had gone to the bathroom. But she managed to get a look at the clock and get a look at what time it was. And she saw this 3-foot-tall gray in the room with her. And she tried to move, and you know, military, it's the flight or fight response, and she was paralyzed, she couldn't move. And it's telepathic, she's very empathic, and she can connect with people who've passed over that want to give messages to family or friends or whatever. Those kind of realms are very easy for her, but this guy is telepathically trying to tell her, "It's okay, I'm not gonna hurt you, I'm just checking to make sure everything's okay." And he scans her with this light beam. It's like a blue-white light beam, and she said it felt physically cool, like a cool light. But what really weirded her out was it felt familiar, like it had happened before. And this whole thing went on. She'd kind of, you know, get just weirded out and pass out and come to consciousness and stuff. The whole thing lasted about 4